Disclaimer. I doesn't claim any of the arts. All the pictures shown belongs to the respective artist and company. If you are original owner and want me to remove the video, I will do it immediately. Just send me an email to inform me. And if you like my content, please subscribe to my channel. Chapter begins, and we see that Luca stood still, facing the rogue android as it prepared to attack. The machine's joints were, and its sensors locked onto him, calculating the perfect moment to strike. With a sudden burst of speed, the android lunged forward. However, Luca remained calm. His sharp eyes followed its movement, and just as the machine's claw slashed forward, he took a single step back, easily avoiding the attack. A smile curled on his lips as he watched its movements. That was a clean strike, but a bit reckless, he thought. I wonder if it's using a high-quality battle program. His eyes flicked to its sharp metal claws, gleaming under the artificial light. A direct hit from those would definitely put me in the hospital for a while, he thought. Yet even as the machine readied itself for another assault, Luca's smile deepened. However, it's not very exciting, he thought. A familiar craving stirred within him, a craving that normal battles never satisfied. I need something more, something that really gets my adrenaline pumping. The android launched again, and Luca met its advance with a powerful kick to its face, sending it skidding backward. Despite the impact, the machine barely faltered, steadying itself almost instantly and recalibrating its glowing red optics, narrowing as if reassessing its opponent. Luca grin widened. Something that's different from your ordinary android, he thought. The machine launched another attack, leaping into the air to strike from above. Luca, already anticipating its movement, exhaled slowly, his fingers twitching with excitement. Hurry up and surprise me, he thought. In a sudden motion, he flicked a knife into the air, the blade whisking past the android's head, forcing it to momentarily shift its attention toward the projectile. That split second of distraction was all Luca needed. With lightning-fast reflexes, he leaped onto the android's back, locking both of its arms behind it in a ruthless hold. "Nah, you're being disappointing," he said. The black-haired boy, who had been watching the fight unfold, recoiled in horror. The android convulsed as its systems malfunctioned under Luca's crushing grip, thrashing violently, but Luca twisted harder, metal bending and snapping under the force. With a final crack, the machine collapsed, its limbs rendered useless. Luca stood over its broken frame, watching as its flickering red optics dimmed. A garbled metallic voice croaked from the machine, requesting backup. Luca's left eye glowed a deep crimson as he turned his attention toward the black-haired boy who had previously challenged him. "Hey, I thought you were itching to fight me to the end. Why don't you start taking this seriously now that we're done warming up?" The boy's breath hitched, and he panicked, stumbling backward, his confidence utterly shattered. Luca let out a disappointed sigh, murmuring to himself, "Unfortunate." A red light flashed across his face, and Luca's gaze snapped upward. Above, 3 airships hovered ominously in the night sky. Luca sat outside the dormitory, deep in thought after that incident. The security forces had requested his cooperation in their investigation. A flashback played in his mind inside the security office. Security forces investigator Gillian Campbell stood before him, her voice firm and authoritative. "It is certain that the culprit who controlled that android is within the academy. We need you to hunt down the suspect. Although nobles hate being investigated, they'll have no choice now that there's a murderer on the run." Luca crossed his arms, narrowing his eyes. "You mentioned that the culprit is among the nobles. Is there any chance it could be someone from the lower sectors?" Gillian shook her head. "None at all. It's not possible for them to get through the firewalls and access the Academy's closed network." Luca leaned back against the chair, skeptical. "Well, I'm just an ordinary pupil. What makes you think I'd be adequate for such an investigation?" Gillian's gaze sharpened. "Not just anyone can use the Archie's Victima. It requires exceptional insight. You meet this requirement, so you will be able to properly uphold the role of an investigator." Luca's fingers twitched slightly. "How does he know?" Gillian's piercing stare didn't waver. A knowing smirk crept onto her lips. "That's an interesting expression. Allow me to tell you something. Users of the Archie's Victima are important enough to be recorded on a separate list. Of course, we pay special attention to people who have learned like you." Luca's jaw tightened. "Why so?" Gillian tilted her head slightly. "You'll get your answer from the person who taught you to use that technique." Luca's thoughts spiraled. "Just who are you, Kinuan?" The flashback shattered as a voice rang out. Luca eyes snapped toward the source. Giselle Castoria was running toward him, her face tight with frustration and worry. What the hell is going on? Do you understand what happened to me because you accepted my father's orders? I had warned Barbara to stay away from you, and yet she still... Luca cut her off with a calm but firm voice. I couldn't just stand back and watch a group of people gang up on a single individual. Giselle's fists clenched. What the hell are you saying? You're going to fight again? Luca stood up, meeting her glare head on. I guess I'll have no choice if they do. Giselle bit her thumb in frustration, then exhaled sharply. I'll meet with Kalie Sakano and negotiate an agreement. She might be willing to compromise if I talk to her. Luca observed her carefully, his instincts flaring. Why is Giselle trying to mediate this situation? Activating Archie's victima, he analyzed her subtle body language. So she's confident in her ability to control Kalissa. A small smirk tugged at his lips. All right, then I'll go ahead and meet with Kisa. I'd rather not attract the attention of the chief. However, Luca had already turned away, his mind racing. There's also something that I need to check. Luca sat across from Kalissa Kano, watching as she moved a chess piece with deliberate slowness. Her voice dripped with venom. What I'm saying is, Barbara had her eyes on my boyfriend first. Luca, leaning back slightly, observed her carefully before responding. You don't seem like someone who would just let that happen, though. Are you sure you didn't send your boyfriend to Barbara on purpose? Kalessa's expression darkened. What? Luca pressed his fingers against the chessboard and continued. How could he disagree with you when you threatened to send your people after him, just like you did with me before? The black-haired boy, Kisa's boyfriend, the same one who had ambushed Luca before the android attack, narrowed his eyes and muttered, Kisa, send her greetings. Luca scoffed. It's a family code, isn't it? Revenge, the so-called way of the Kano family. His gaze flickered back to Kalissa. Didn't you just need an excuse to mess with Barbara? Standing to the side, Giselle watched the exchange. Kalissa's temper flared, and she slammed her fist down on the chessboard, knocking over several pieces. Giselle's eyes sharpened as she held herself back. Then in a firm voice, she commanded, Calm down. Kalissa breaths came fast and uneven, but Giselle's expression darkened, her gaze piercing Kalissa. That's enough. Do you plan to ignore what I just said? At her words, Kalissa flinched, her shoulders tensed as she cast her gaze downward. Panic flashed across her face and she murmured to herself. Giselle slowly turned her gaze toward Luca, her posture rigid yet controlled. Luca, she began, her words measured. I need some time alone with Kalissa. Please just give me a moment. Luca, ever unbothered, merely shrugged before pushing himself up from his seat. Replied casually as if her request were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. As he stepped outside, the cool air brushed against his skin, but his mind was anything but calm. Thoughts spiraled rapidly, one after another, forming connections and suspicions he couldn't ignore. Just as I suspected, he mused. Giselle has complete control over Kalissa. But if that's the case, why go through all this trouble? Why not just command her to leave Barbara alone? It would have been far simpler than arranging this whole conversation. Before he could delve deeper into his theories, the door creaked open behind him. Giselle emerged, her fingers pressed against her temple in clear exasperation. She let out a sharp sigh, her voice dripping with irritation. Ugh, I really hoped she wouldn't make such a spectacle of herself. Luca turned to face her, his expression unreadable. He only wanted to test something, he admitted, his tone light but deliberate. I had a theory that androids couldn't be controlled by anyone outside the nobles. Kalissa just happened to be the perfect example. Someone who already despised Barbara. Giselle's eyes flashed with annoyance, her patience visibly thinning. Who do you think you are? She snapped, her voice rising slightly. Stop playing detective. There are actual investigators handling this case, ones who don't need you sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. A faint smirk tugged at Luca's lips. I'm sure those investigators are having a wonderful time getting answers from nobles, he remarked dryly. Her brows knitted together in irritation. Are you mocking me? Luca's response was smooth, almost infuriatingly so. Just stating facts. He watched as her jaw tightened before he continued, his words deliberate. It's the same way you can shut Kalissa down with a single word, isn't it? Giselle's eyes narrowed dangerously. Kalissa is in no position to ignore my commands. That's all there is to it. Luca didn't miss the way her fingers twitched at her sides, a telltale sign of discomfort. He pressed further, his next words deliberate. Is that why you ordered Kalissa to bully Barbara? For the briefest moment, something akin to panic flickered across Gisele's face before she swiftly masked it. Her voice, however, wavered slightly. What exactly are you implying? Luca remained unfazed, his tone casual yet cutting. Just that someone who hated Barbara conveniently had the means to act on it. And they merely used their resources. The air between them grew thick with tension. Then, without warning, Giselle lunged forward, gripping Luca's collar with enough force to yank him closer. Her voice dropped to a venomous whisper. You'd better watch that mouth of yours. But instead of shoving him away, she did something unexpected. Her forehead pressed against his chest, her breath shaky as if she were struggling to rein in her emotions. Her grip loosened slightly, and when she finally pulled back, her usual composure was nowhere to be found. I'm sorry, she stammered, visibly flustered. I shouldn't have. Cutting herself off, she abruptly turned on her heel, her retreating steps quick and unsteady. Over her shoulder, she threw back a final warning. Just know that if you cause any more trouble, you'll be the one paying for it. Luca activated Archie's victima, his gaze fixed on her retreating figure. Based on everything, Giselle is the most suspicious, he thought. But something doesn't add up. Why does she seem afraid? The deeper he dug, the more tangled the mystery became. The inside of Archie's victima only seemed to amplify the confusion. Later, Luca found himself seated beside Barbara, who was practically beaming as she slid a neatly wrapped sandwich toward him. Her eyes sparkled with exaggerated excitement. Luca, please accept this. He eyed the offering with suspicion. Barbara, he said slowly, what's this about? She clasped her hands together, her smile unwavering. It's my way of thanking you for saving me from Kalissa. And since you're staying at the academy, maybe I could cook for you while you're here. Luca's expression darkened. No thanks. I'd rather avoid misunderstandings. Barbara's smile faltered for only a fraction of a second before she replied. Her voice soft but firm, I don't mind misunderstandings. Luca activated Archie's victima again, scrutinizing her every movement. Does she actually have feelings for me? But something felt off. His instinct screamed that there was more beneath the surface. Leaning forward slightly, he fixed her with a piercing stare. Barbara, why do you keep trying to get close to me when you know the rogue androids will keep targeting you? Do you want me to get dragged into danger? Her expression remained eerily calm, her voice dripping with practiced innocence. Of course not. I just don't know what to do. Whoa, why is all of this happening? Luca's eyes narrowed. She's hiding something. He needed to push harder. With a faint smirk, he said, Kalissa was bothering you because Giselle ordered it. And Giselle won't stop until she gets what she wants. Barbara's smile didn't waver, but her voice lost its sweetness. I already knew that, Luca. A jolt of surprise shot through him. Is she new? His gaze sharpened as he studied her reaction. After a beat, he asked carefully, Then do you know why Giselle hates you? Barbara turned to face him fully, her expression eerily serene. Luca, then in one swift jarring motion, she hurled the sandwich aside. Her once gentle features twisted into something dark, her lips curling into a chilling smile. When she spoke again, her voice was a whisper laced with venom. Is there any reason why I should tell you that? For the first time, Luca felt the full, unsettling weight of the madness lurking beneath her carefully constructed facade. Luca was curious about how she would react to his provocation. She had been acting strangely for a while. When she turned to him, he suddenly remembered guide words. Monsters are hiding around here, and one of them is Barbara. Later that day, Luca called Guide, who had met with Kisa's ex-boyfriend. Luca assumed that Kalissa had set him and Barbara up on purpose. He thought this was because of his family's reputation and his unpleasant personality, which made it hard for him to say no. However, he admitted that letting Guide investigate was the right decision. Luca now understands that Kalissa did this to create an excuse. But if he points out a suspect, will he be able to investigate with his authority? Guide confirmed this, but he only had a few chances. It would be risky if they accused the wrong person. Luca didn't expect Guide to be so principled, but Guide explained that this was the 6th case involving androids, and there had even been a death. Now Guide just wants to catch those who think they can deceive them. Luca asked if Guide had found anything about Barbara, but Guide didn't understand why Luca was so suspicious of her. She was from the lower sectors and just a student. It would be impossible for her to bypass the Academy's firewall and access the internet. Luca pointed out that this wasn't the case with the nobles, who could interfere with the manufacturing and distribution of androids. There had been many cases where androids were bought with money and power, often both. Additionally, Luca didn't know how this information would help, but Barbara was actually sponsored by the Castoria family. Luca ended the call after this. He was glad to have this information, but it completely ruined the idea he had in mind. If he could just force Barbara to tell him what he wanted to know, things wouldn't be so difficult, but he needed to do all this tedious work. He guessed he just had to talk to Giselle soon. The next day, Luca went to the workshop, where he was surprised to see nobles actually working. They were still competitive, probably trying to prove themselves to their families. Elay had told him that useless nobles were treated like lower-class citizens, but he didn't see any here. Luca's gaze turned to Giselle, who was working hard, not bad for someone he had wanted to get rid of before. After finishing her work, she asked Luca what he wanted, but he told Giselle he just wanted to see her, making her spit out what she was drinking. She asked if he had completely lost his mind, but Luca noted that she was the one who said his mind was damaged. Giselle didn't have time for him, so he should get to the point already. Luca looked around and told her that from now on, she should not hide anything from him. He had officially been asked to help with the investigation, so she couldn't refuse. Giselle didn't like to say this, but he should not forget who her father was. Luca told her he didn't care. He found out her family was sponsoring Barbara. Is that why she wanted to get her out of the academy? Perhaps also the chief centurion didn't care about such things. Giselle reasoned that being the second victim of her curse was enough reason to hate Barbara. They were friends until then. Luca found that weird. If they were friends, why didn't she try to stop the curse? Giselle just said that she wasn't close to her, so what would have been the point? Luca told her that the security forces saw the android incident as clear intent, and now she was the top suspect. Giselle became furious. How could this be when she was a victim, too? Luca suggested that this was a common tactic for the culprit of a crime to hide themselves as a victim. And she had all the tools needed to do it. Family knowledge and ability. Giselle couldn't believe this. She couldn't believe him. She would warn him to let go of this now. Luca advised her to calm down. He didn't actually suspect her, so if she knew anything, she better tell him now. Suddenly, someone appeared at the door, surprising even Luca. It was Barbara, who was actually looking for him. She couldn't find him where he usually sat, so she was worried. Luca was now on high alert. How did she locate him, and how couldn't he sense her coming? Now he saw it too, her rather cheerful attitude. Even though she was being bullied and in front of Giselle, who was supposed to be orchestrating the charade. He only needed 10 minutes. He would break her bones and fingers. He would get all the information he would ever need. His desire to strike her became a main priority, but he told her to drop the fake smile. She was creepy. Barbara began crying, saying she liked him. He was her hero. They should just talk about this, as it was a misunderstanding. Luca grabbed a metal chair and threw it at her with all his might, making even Giselle spooked. Up until now, he was just looking for ways to kill boredom, but she took him for a fool. Barbara continued to shake, but her true personality quickly surfaced. She really didn't know what he was talking about. Her expression made Giselle freeze completely, and Barbara walked past her, leaving the food there in case they wanted to enjoy it later. With that, she walked away, but not before grabbing Giselle. It was truly nice to see her. She left Giselle quivering as she walked away. Luca finally knew the real culprit. The relationship with the innocent, it was all her. He called Giselle, but she didn't want anything to do with him anymore. She begged him to spend his time there quietly and go back once he was done. And with that, this chapter ends. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Support this channel by liking this video and subscribing the channel. And if you want me to recap another manhwa or manga, write its name in the comments section. And if you want to know that what happened in previous chapters, you can watch them in this channel. Stay tuned for next chapters.